And welcome. I want to chat for just a few minutes today about something that I touched upon in my last video around helping our children try and like new foods without pressure. In fact, this is one of the most critical components when it comes to feeding our kids to have a healthy relationship with food and their body. When you come into my program, Nourish Together, it is one of the very first things that we talk about, and I actually call it a must do. Now, if you're a client of mine, you know there are not many things that I call must do's because we all have different circumstances. We have different schedules. We have a different number of children. We have different personalities, different capacities for things, different food preferences. So there aren't many things that I consider a must do, but this is foundational to the way that we raise our children to have a healthy relationship with food, to be able to listen to their body cues, eat the amount they need, eat a variety of foods, not be obsessive about sugar, sweets, quote unquote, junk food snacks, all of those foods that we tend to kind of label as not being as nutritious or not as good for them, that we tend to see our kids gravitate towards. So if we want them to eat in a more balanced way and feel good in their body, I want you to hear this for just a minute. So, what am I referring to? I am talking about what I call remove the reactivity. Again, this is the first and most critical piece. So, our kids will react to external circumstances. We all do, right? This is part of human nature. Let me tell you a story really quick. When we were in the midst of COVID, my oldest one was doing his Zoom school from home. So he was supposed to be on Zoom, listening to his teacher, participating in the class, doing his worksheets or whatever he needed to be doing. And he was sitting at the table and he kept getting up to go to the bathroom. He would ask for a snack. He would throw a ball up against the wall. He was just getting up and down. He had zero interest in doing it. I don't blame him. So finally, I just said, you know what, honey? After many times of redirection, trying to help, I just said, why don't we just close up the laptop for today? Let's close it up and let's go outside and play. And he looked at me like, are you being serious? What's going on here? And then he slowly started to close his laptop. He's like, okay, got up, started to walk out to go outside. I was following close behind him. And all of a sudden, he just turns around and he's like, I want to do my Zoom and you won't let me. It's like, what in the world just happened right now? Right. But he was reacting to me trying to tell him what to do. We're not going to do that now. Right. We're not going to do that anymore. And so he is like, yes, I am. I am going to do that. Don't tell me what to do. Right. And this is our normal human reaction. I've seen this in so many scenarios. It also reminds me of seeing the kid who has a toy and then the other kid only wants that toy because somebody else has it. And the minute they have access to it, they're like, done with it. Want it anymore. It's not such a great game, right? But they're reacting to the fact that it feels like they can't have it. So then they want it even more. They want to exert that control. Most parenting experts will tell us that kids have these buckets that need to be filled. And one of them is having that sense of power and control. So our kids are constantly looking for that. So let's jump back to food for a minute. If in the feeding relationship, our children feel like we are trying to control them, we are trying to exert that power over them, they are going to react to that. And we can see this show up in lots of different ways. So, when I was referring to it before in the Helping Your Child Eat a Greater Variety video, we were talking about when we do things with kids that tell them they need to eat. So, we're talking about pressure to take two more bites or just try it, you'll like it, or bribing them. You need to eat your broccoli if you want to get dessert. Right? When we do things that tell them they need to eat something, they tend to react to that. And then they dig their heels in and they don't want to eat it even more. And maybe they comply. Maybe they comply and do take the two bites because they really want their dessert or whatever it might be. But this is not a long term eating strategy. In fact, To this day, my dad still tells me I hate peas because I was always made to eat them. He never once has said, I don't like the texture. I don't like the way they taste. He says, I hate them because I was forced to eat them. So if we are thinking about feeding our kids for the future, for the long term game, we don't want to encourage, right? Like overly encourage, pressure, force them to eat things so that they feel like that's something we want them to do and they don't have control because they are going to react. So this can happen with trying to make them try different foods. It can also happen if a child feels restricted in some way. So, this could be with food overall or with certain types of food. So, if we are saying, like, you can have one more piece of pizza and then you're done, then you're cut off, right? They will react to that because they feel like they aren't able to get the amount they want and need. And then when food is around, they try to get as much as possible because they feel like they don't have access or they're not allowed to eat as much as they want. Now, this is not true if you go to a party and there really is a limited amount of pizza and we need to be thoughtful of everyone. Now, that's a real life circumstance, right? We're like, oh gosh, we have to make sure there's enough for everyone. And when we get home, we can make sure that we get some more lunch, or that, if you're still hungry though, there's chips and there's a fruit platter and there's all these other things. We're not saying, no, you can't have more. No, you're cut off, right? That's like a real life circumstance. So I'm not saying that every scenario we have to be so careful that they have this like unlimited access and we can't say anything about food. Absolutely not. But if we are constantly putting limits and telling them, if you want more pizza, then you need to eat your vegetables first, or two pieces and then you're cut off, anything along those lines that is limiting them to be able to get the amount they want and need on a regular basis, not just because of a life circumstance, they are going to react to that. And I see all the time inside my program when parents set up an appropriate structure, which we're not going to get into today, because I am not suggesting that food needs to be a free for all. But when parents actually create appropriate structure and boundaries, and then allow their child to eat the amount they need within those boundaries, parents always come back to me and say, oh my gosh, they're not asking for seconds anymore when they used to see as much food as they could get and eat. Or sometimes they do, but then they seem to stop when they've had enough. Or they actually told me, no, they don't want anything. They're not hungry, which they would never have seen before. It just seemed like their child was a quote unquote like bottomless pit, always wanted to eat, always trying to get as much food as possible, like as if they were overeating. Right. So we still want to create that structure and have some boundaries, but we also can't give our child something to react to by restricting them from eating the amount they want to need. And this is very similar when it comes to things like sweets, or, so that could be like candy, brownies, cupcakes, etc., or maybe snack type foods. Like my kid only wants snacks or chips or granola bars. They don't want to eat any meals that I ever make, that sort of thing. So if they feel like those aren't foods that they're supposed to have, or they can't have as many of them, or they have to earn them, again, they will react and only get them. So this can look very extreme from like, we don't bring those foods in our house, which I definitely hear from parents sometimes, or I hear, parents realized they were doing that and then realized it was creating an issue, or that maybe the neighborhood kid is always coming over and trying to eat all the fruit roll-ups or whatever it might be from their home because their parents won't let them have fruit roll-ups. So this can be extreme, like we don't bring it in the house, or it can just be in like subtle ways that we talk about certain foods that make our kids feel like they want me to eat that, and they don't want me to have as many of the chips or whatever. Or maybe we're always limiting chips. No, you can have one, bowl of chips or one bag of chips. And then if you're still hungry, you can eat some fruit or something like that. Like we're always limiting and placing foods on different hierarchies. Again, there are nuances to this. I'm not saying that, you have to open full bags of chips every day and let your kid have as many as they want. Absolutely not. We can still have structure and boundaries with food. In fact, that is absolutely what I teach, is that our children need our support and guidance, but they don't need us to control and micromanage their food. Okay, so there's a big difference there, and there's a way to create structure and boundaries without it feeling restrictive or depriving. Okay, so I'm going to wrap us up for here today. I hope this is helpful. I trust that it is. If you have any thoughts or questions, leave them in the comments for me. And if you feel like you need more support around all of this, because maybe you have been engaging in these practices, or maybe you see that your child seems obsessive with sweets, or like they're overeating, or you're really worried that they're getting, that they don't want to try new foods, right? You're concerned about some of their behaviors, or you're just worried that maybe you're doing this wrong, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can sign up for a free eating alignment call, and I will happily assess your current situation with you and see if it would be useful to get more support. All right, that's it for now. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or questions, and I will look forward to talking with you soon. Okay, bye bye.